Hello. Today, we compare Lain, Madoka, and Kama. Starting with Lain. Lain is a philosophical concept embodied as a girl, representing existence, consciousness, God, reality, imagination, and connection. Serial experiments. Lain revolves around the wired, not a normal internet, an abstract, dreamlike space of thoughts and will, not bodies. People inside the wired do not exist materially. They are data, voices, or dispersed consciousness. Most enter with voice or mental presence. But Lain enters fully, because her existence is not tied to a body. Lain is the body of will, her being arising from pure will, making her like the absolute. The wired is a dream space. Time is nonlinear, death meaningless. Souls linger, past, present, and future overlap. Everything depends on connection, not cause and effect. In reality, matter equals existence, but in the wired, data equals existence, and matter is just data, meaning reality is a projection from a higher level. Lain stands in between, the bridge, the borderline between real and unreal, life and death, wired and reality. This line is an illusion humans invented. Lain questions and dismantles it. She is the mask of God, the absolute reality, the unity from which everything originates, formless, beyond duality, like the monad or absolute reality. Lain is the interface through which will expresses itself, giving her authority over reality. She can erase memories, delete, but ultimately performs all reset, not just deleting data, but resetting all reality, history, and existence, correcting the breakdown between wired and reality. Lain controls information, the basis of existence, allowing her control over matter, concepts, mind, spirit, sensation, and the self. As the ego is mere information separating the individual from unity, she can erase or rewrite the ego, erase herself and return unaffected. Because she is not tied to memory or identity, even time in the wired is one extended moment, making death meaningless. The world is full of wandering souls, tied to wires and paths of consciousness, akin to the tree of life in Kabbalah. The wired is Yesod, reality Maketh, descending levels from a higher origin. The wired is the world behind the network, where thoughts, memories, and the collective unconscious meet. Like Jung's collective unconscious, linked to Kabbalah and Akashic records, anime, game, and other media show facets of the same entity. Ultimately, Lain chooses pain and disappearance, erasing herself from memory to maintain balance, yet existing on a higher level, outside memory and perception. She is transcendent. Lain is connection itself. We are all one, asking, if reality is information, who controls it? If consciousness is fundamental, who is real? The world or the thinker? This is Serial Experiments Lain. Now, Madoka. After episode 12, Madoka's very existence transforms into something metaconceptual, meaning beyond concepts themselves. The word meta comes from Greek and means beyond or transcending. So entering a metaconceptual state means she has exited the framework of concepts altogether. This includes all dualities such as existence and non-existence, presence and absence, positive and negative. As a result, nothing is lacking from her, which is what we call ontological perfection, a complete mode of being that lacks nothing. This is very close to Hegel's idea of the absolute, where the whole and itself are identical, though it is not truly boundless, since boundless in tiering systems like Versbu requires total negation and apophatic transcendence. While Madoka still retains positive description, then there is the explicit statement that Madoka became the light of the void, mentioned in the anime itself and in official magazines. This realm is not governed by spatial axes or material extension, meaning there are no dimensions at all, which invalidates any claim that she is a dimensional entity. At the same time, Urobuchi states that her existence moved to a higher level, meaning she is neither o-dimensional or below dimensionality. This places her logically outside the concept of dimensionality itself. which corresponds to an outer-versal status. The strongest evidence comes from guidebooks stating that she ascended to a higher conceptual world or higher order concepts. Even if the kanji allows some flexibility, the meaning is clear. This level surpasses ordinary abstraction, not only transcending matter, but also transcending the relationship between matter and concept itself. This makes her fundamentally superior, as she relates to concepts the same way concepts transcend matter. In sap terms, this reaches high outer-versal. Finally, when it is stated explicitly that she became an, meaning the original concept itself, this signifies that she has exited individuality and become the embodiment of the essence of all ideas, not one concept, among others, but the source from which concepts arise. Now Kama, in type moon, after Shiva erased her on a conceptual level, Kama did not truly die. Instead, her existence was detached from any fixed form, and became vague and formless. No body, no image, and no stable shape. She became bound to the very concept of the universe itself. She was no longer an entity inside the universe, but something closer to the conceptual background upon which the universe is founded. This explains why, as a fragment of Beast EE, or L, her power increases as Kiara weakens, since both represent the same fundamental principle expressed in opposite directions. Kama recreated Oku not as a simple location, but as a labyrinth, an existential structure with its own laws and theories. Separate from the natural world, space-time inside it is twisted and operates under different rules, to the extent that everything within Oku was reduced to its smallest components and reused as building material, effectively redefining existence itself. Being tied to the concept of the universe grants her infinite presence within it, and anyone within her domain is instantly erased because they are literally inside her existence. Her countless manifestations are not clones, but the same being, one mind and one existence, branching infinitely to bestow limitless love upon all beings. She is the abstract embodiment of love as a cosmic law, not romantic affection, but a universal principle. The distinction between real space and imaginary number space is crucial, since the Nasuverse itself is concept-driven, and Kama was able to create her own ideal space using her personal theories, proving she is not bound by any predefined conceptual system. She is bodiless, and after being conceptually erased, she defines herself as void, not nothingness, but a generative emptiness. Imaginary number space is described as primordial chaos, beyond time and meaning, nothing yet containing all possibilities. Kama remained unaffected by conceptual erasure because gods in the Nasuverse only truly die when all memory of them disappears, and she is inseparable from the universe itself. She possesses infinite selves, yet a single existence. Gods exist on the reverse side, with laws unlike the human world, and physical laws did not even exist before heaven and earth were divided. Kama's compatibility with Sakura's body grants her affinity with the void and imaginary numbers, which erase existence and dissolve meaning. She controls the boundary between reality and unreality, real and imaginary numbers, rendering reality-based attacks ineffective. Near her, thought destabilizes, identity fades, and existence becomes uncertain. Cosmologically, it is merely a lower layer filled with textures, parallel worlds, and higher dimensions. While higher entities operate on the level of will and concept, imaginary number space stands as the origin of all dualities and possibilities, making Kama the embodiment of a cosmic principle that precedes laws, dimensions, and structure itself. Alright, who is the strongest? This comparison is based on whose existence is deeper and more fundamental than the others. In my view, Madoka is the strongest, followed by Kama, and the weakest, relatively even though she is still terrifying, is Lain. So why this order? Madoka's existence was transferred to a clearly meta-conceptual level, a higher-order conceptual realm with no dimensions, no time, and no dualities. She became the original concept itself, an archetype of ideas, a complete existence, lacking nothing, an ontological perfection very close to the absolute. This places her at the top, here, high outer versal by sap logic, and she does not need to rely on any specific cosmology to justify her status. Karma comes right after that, because she is bound to the very concept of the universe itself. She operates at the level of the origin of laws, reality and unreality, real and imaginary numbers, possibility and impossibility. Her existence is conceptual, multiple without duplication, and not dependent on a body. However, her power is still tied to the Nasuverse framework itself, making her a conceptual outerversal entity, but at a lower degree than Madoka, since she has not reached the stage of being the absolute archetype of all concepts. Lain's existence is informational, transcending matter and time, and she controls memory and reality. Yet in the end, she is still tied to the wired, and to the system where information equals existence, placing her at an outer or low outer level, but without the absolute abstraction of Madoka or the broader conceptual scope of Kama. So the final ranking, in my opinion, is Madoka, Lain.